Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara.
Today we're talking about finding your soulmate.
So, do you believe in soulmates?
Well, of course I do. I'm with you.
Okay, so there is this concept of the soulmate, and I think it's something that a lot of people are into and they search for.
Then you get the pessimists who don't believe in soulmates at all.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about finding really the right person for you, which most people believe is the soulmate.
We're going to talk today about some studies and the psychology behind finding the right person for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you've even got maths for us.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all social creatures. We have an underlying need to be with somebody, to be partnered up. That's kind of like a biological sort of deal with most of us.
Yes. There are people who don't, but
Well, that's why I said most of us.
for the most part, yes.
This is why romance is such a huge genre. It's the biggest genre, not just in lesfic, but in any fiction.
Well, not even just in fiction, even in music.
And movies and TV. And if there isn't some sort of romantic, like finding your soulmate type thread, people are like, where is the romance?
Yes. So romance is deeply encoded into us.
Absolutely. And taught.
Yes.
So it's on all the levels, right? Dating sites are huge and they make a ton of money because of this drive within us, this need to hook up with the right person.
Yeah, and this promise that they can do it.
Right, so people, they claim to have personality tests that can find people with similar interests to you, and therefore they'll be your perfect match. Sounds great, but it actually doesn't work for the most part. I mean, it seems logical. If we both want to raise children, if we both have the same ideals, if we both have the same religion.
Or if you're both interested in the same things, even.
Right. Except that's not actually true.
So there's a myth to compatibility.
There is. How interesting is that?
So does that mean that there's a myth to soulmates?
No. I'm actually not prepared to go there. But I can tell you about a study that was done.
Okay.
Dr. Ted Hudson from the University of Texas ran a longitudinal study of couples that had been married for years. And in his research, he discovered something really interesting.
Okay.
In his own words, he says, "My research shows that there is no difference in objective compatibility between those couples that are unhappy and those couples that are happy." Just think about that for a minute. There is no difference in objective compatibility between happy and unhappy couples.
Okay, so a couple that's unhappy, they're no more uncompatible than a couple that is happy.
Yes.
Okay.
So happy couples can be, on paper, completely incompatible. And unhappy couples can, on paper, be completely compatible.
Okay.
He went on to say that couples that feel content and warmth in their relationship say that compatibility wasn't an issue for them. In fact, they said it was them who made the relationship work, not the compatibility of their personalities.
I actually get that. Like, I think I completely 100% agree with this theory.
Well, it's not a theory. He actually did a study. These are proven study. Okay,
I agree with it.
When unhappy couples were asked what they thought about compatibility, they all answered saying that compatibility is extremely important in their marriage, and they went on to further say that they were not compatible.
Okay, so the blame isn't on them. They put the blame on, like, just
mismatch.
Not meshing, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And they said, we just don't get along very well. So that's where the issue arises with compatibility. Everyone who's unhappy naturally blames it on this facade of compatibility, but they fail to realize that a successful relationship doesn't actually hinge its posterity on how alike you are.
We're not puzzle pieces.
There is something to be said about getting my brand of weird, right?
No, sure, but like you don't have to match on every single level to be able to be together. And I think that's where people tend to blame not matching in a certain area for their relationship not working out.
Now people are rolling their eyes and going, oh, this is such rubbish. This person doesn't know what they're talking about, right? Because compatibility on the surface seems like it should be this thing.
Yes.
Okay, but let's talk about arranged marriages for a minute.
Okay.
So studies have been done around arranged marriages versus people who choose their partner.
Yeah, but isn't that just because the women just don't have a way out?
Actually, a survey was done around these arranged marriages, and they tend to last longer. And it's not necessarily just because they have the option for divorce. It's because they choose to make the relationship work. As a couple, because they're in a arranged marriage, they actually choose to make it work. And so they have a different psychology to people who choose each other, if that makes sense.
Okay, so like maybe the psychology of having like an embarrassment of choices or...
Well, if you think about our last episode when we spoke about the different phases of a relationship, right? When you're in an arranged marriage and you get to phase 2, you don't have an option out.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out. You have to work through it, and you have to figure out how to get to phase 3.
I think an interesting thing with arranged marriages as well is that you're in this, I'm going to put this in air quotes, a forced commitment. So you've kind of leapfrog that trust stage. So you can build trust as you go, but you're already in the commitment. Like you...
Exactly.
Whether or not you have the option to divorces, that's besides the point. It's that you're already in the commitment, so now you just have to work through it to make it work.
So I'm going to speak from a standpoint of I actually have no idea what goes on in arranged marriages, but I have a theory that goes like this. I think when arranged marriages are happening, the parents who are arranging the marriages are trying to do the best for their children.
Yes.
So they're trying to get that compatibility and trying to make sure that the person that they're marrying is financially stable and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Right? So it starts off from the point of view of people who are maybe a little bit wiser than you putting you together with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about here in healthy arranged marriages. We're not talking about anything that is illegal.
No, like child bride stuff or random things like that, which unfortunately is very often the only thing that people think of when it comes to arranged marriages, which is not true.
No, there are a lot of cultures that still practice it for their adult children, and in a lot of cases it actually does work out well.
So in the Western world, autonomy and your ability to choose your own relationships is huge. It's like a basic human right.
Yes.
Okay? And we champion that at all levels. But we get stuck in a perpetual loop of consciously and unconsciously considering someone else when things aren't going well in our relationship.
Yes, because there's this thing of like, okay, this person's not the right one, because they like to put salt on their food before even tasting it.
Right. Which is where the illusion of compatibility comes in. So the grass is always greener.
Yes.
I have to say, I take all of this with a pinch of salt, whether you put it on your food before tasting it or not, because I think that there are definitely things that cannot be overcome in terms of incompatibility.
Oh, sure. I don't think, you can just take two random strangers, put them together, and they'll be in a happy relationship if they just work through it. No. Right. But I do think there's a lot to be said that some people are too choosy.
I agree with that.
Okay. Like, I was chatting to a friend at work the other day, and she was talking about her cousin who is successful and beautiful and well-educated and can't find a stable relationship. And this is because the cousin wants their partner to have all sorts of things. They want them to look a certain way. They want them to have a certain degree, to work in a certain field, to earn a certain amount of money. And I mean, that's a lot to put on one person. I mean, her compatibility issues are out of this world.
Well, okay, so she's looking for this elusive magic fix to something.
And she thinks this is the only person she's going to be compatible with. So she'll go on dates and a person pitches up and they're not as hot as she would want them to be. She leaves. She doesn't give the person a chance at all.
Okay, but that's problematic.
No, it is. But I think this is something that a lot of people fall into, where they are continually going on dates and they'll find something to not like about this person, even if it's not as extreme as this other person.
And this is what they're saying. So this grass is always greener kind of mentality. It's fostering this illusion of compatibility in the Western world particularly. And it's actually problematic for relationships, and it's problematic to find the right mate, your soulmate,
yes,
if you like. So let's talk about finding an actual soulmate. You're listening to The Lesbian Talk Show. thelesbiantalkshow.com
your hub of podcast information.
This episode's about finding that soulmate, that elusive someone that you can build this relationship with. So you've got some information around this.
Yeah. So, look, can't promise you 100% it's going to find you your soulmate. But I think if you're the kind of person who is struggling to find a relationship, I think it's a good place to start.
Okay.
So Hannah Fry is an associate professor at a London university, and she specializes in the field of mathematics. And she's written a book called The Mathematics of Love.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So what she's taken is a whole bunch of mathematical proofs and applied them to relationships and to romance. Okay. So the one thing that she talks about is the optimal stopping theory. And this is a theory that's used in a lot of different situations, not just love. It can be to, find your perfect house. It can be to find the perfect outfit to wear on a date. It's not just about love. Okay. So what the theory says is that you're giving yourself a time span to figure out what you want to figure out. And then you're going to experience as many of those things as possible. And then the very next thing that you find that is better than all of those things that you've experienced is the right one.
Okay, so this is a little bit complicated. Yes. Let's go through this slowly.
No, we will go through this slowly. It's split down into two phases, basically. Okay. So the first phase is calibration. And then the second phase is where you're actually going to go find the thing that you want. In this case, a relationship.
So is calibration like getting your experiences in a row?
Pretty much. Firstly, you're going to set yourself a time limit. Okay, so with a relationship time limit, you're going to say, okay, I've started dating at the age of 16, and I want to find myself married or in a long-term stable relationship by the age of 32. Okay, so that gives me a 16-year time span. All right, so firstly, you're going to be having a calibration phase, and then the phase where you can actually find your perfect soulmate by the age, or at least your long-term relationship by the age of 32. Okay, so we've said that's 16 years, right?
All right.
Okay, so the magic time that you need to stop your experiential phase is 37% through that period. Okay, so into the 16 years, that's about 5.9 years. So we'll say 6 years for simplicity.
So that makes it the age of, so you start
22-ish.
dating 16, so at about 22, you stop experimenting with lots of dating.
Yes.
And now you go into phase 2.
Yes. So from 16 to 22, you would be dating as much as possible, and you're experiencing as many different people as possible, not looking to settle down.
So you just want to gather up the experience.
Yes. You're getting information. You're seeing what you don't like, you're seeing what you like, you're experiencing life, right? And then in phase 2, it's when you start dating seriously, and the very next person that is better than anyone else that you've dated, who ticks all the boxes that no one else before ticked, that is the person to settle down with. That's the perfect choice for you. And this works whether you're looking to buy a house or a car or whatever it is. Now, it's not perfect. It's just a mathematical theory. But it gives you a third of a chance to actually find the right thing or person than random luck does. Okay. So, look, this doesn't take into account that during your experiential phase that you've only dated bad people or people who set a low bar. Okay, so if you were dating people who didn't even come close to expectations, the very next person would definitely be better. So they're not necessarily the best person because the bar is too low.
Okay, so what do you do in that case?
I think then you'd probably want to maybe reset.
And extend your...
Yeah, so maybe say, okay, I am now 22 and I want to be married by 32, so that's 10 years, and like maybe, reset it that way.
And maybe go to some counseling so that you can figure out why you keep being attracted to these people who are setting the low bar.
I think also do that whole thing where you work on yourself to become whole before dating, because if you're always ending up with the wrong kind of person, there is an underlying issue there.
Okay.
Another problem with the theory is that the other person has a say. You might not be the best person that they've dated up until then.
Ouch.
Okay, but having said that, it gives you way better chances of actually finding someone that you could make work.
This is pretty cool. So I'm going to add a link in the show notes to this book.
Yes.
So if you're interested in reading more about this, it's there.
And there's other theories. So go read it. And if you're like into math or you want a more scientific take on getting the ideal relationship for yourself, I think it's worth a read.
That is pretty cool. But basically, there is no magic formula for finding your soulmate.
No, but I mean, you can
get as close as possible.
Yes.
And really, is there such a big difference between finding somebody who you think is your soulmate and finding somebody who you'll be happy with for the rest of your life?
No, because I think that's, in essence, maybe the definition of someone who's a soulmate, or at least close to it. But I mean, think about it. If you're going out looking for a pair of shoes, for example, and you've been shopping for like the last 3 hours, and you found a pair of shoes that you really, really like, but you're still humming and hawing because, I don't know, you got into the point where you're just so confused and you just don't know actually what you want anymore. And you pass up the shoes and you go on to the next store. And then another 2 hours later, you're like, actually, you know what? That pair of shoes was pretty perfect. I'm going to go back to that store. And they're gone. That was the last pair. I think the same thing happens with relationships. You're always looking for perfect. And when you realize that what you had was pretty perfect, it may be too late.
Yeah. So my biggest takeaway from today's podcast was that compatibility is actually not
the most important thing.
The most important thing.
No. You can work through not being compatible in some areas. And I think what people need to realize is that in a relationship, you're two separate people and you don't have to love everything. I mean, commonalities are great, but commonalities in terms of your values and your belief systems, I think, are the most important. But most other things are just surface details.
Even then, though, I mean, you've heard of happy couples where one is Jewish and the other one is Muslim. Yeah, so Hannah Fry's formula is also really interesting. And there we go. Now you know how to go out today and find somebody to be with.
Mm-hmm. So let us know how you deal with relationships. Are you too picky? If you eventually did find the right person, how did you get to that? You can let us know on the Lesbian Talk Show chat group on Facebook.
If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcasts because that rating means we get recommended to other people.
Mm-hmm. You can also support us on Patreon if you enjoyed these podcasts.
Yep, patrons get exclusive podcasts, and for as little as $1 a month, you can help us
keep going.
Keep going. Yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara.
And that's all for this week.
Bye.
Bye. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. Tamara doesn't know what to say because I didn't say my name.
I know. I'm Tamara.
Hi, Tamara.
I'm Tamara.
Otherwise known as Tammy.
No, never a Tabby. Ever.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It. This is Tamara and I'm Sheena.
I like how you pointed me as if this is a visual thing. I should have just said nothing.
And then?
It's like you're talking to yourself.
Oh, like an imaginary friend.
Yes.